Isn't it great how our votes don't matter until they mattered in 2016 and it's all our fault, but then they don't matter if we're asking for something now.
It's really
isn't that
funny.
great?
It's really funny how our votes don't matter until they lose because of us and because of they don't have our.
Yeah.
Um,
Collective gaslighting of everybody under the age of 35 who's like, I don't want to vote for you if you're offering me nothing and actively scornful of me. Wild.
I want to reference a post. This was actually a post made by somebody I do like, and I appreciate him in part because we don't always agree. But I thought this post in particular just was a little bit off point. He was talking about, but I think this is indicative of the way a lot of people think about this stuff. He was talking about the fact that, of course, Joe Biden distances himself from socialism. Socialism isn't that popular. So here's the thing. I agree. It's not that popular. Realistically speaking, it's really not that popular. But it doesn't matter how popular it is in the whole of America. It matters how popular these ideas are amongst people that are going to vote Democrat or might or are likely to vote Democrat, which includes people like us. Especially if you had asked us all this time last year, we all would have said we're likely to vote Democrat in 2020. And most of us at that same time were also saying, as long as they don't fucking pick Joe Biden.
It was anybody but him, and then we got him.
I mean, they literally handed us the worst one. Like, not even with his politics.
Joe Sestak probably would have been better. He would have been funnier.
We probably would have at least thought about y'all. Really, if y'all think we're kidding, go back and listen to our ancient podcast, and we're literally like anybody but Joe.
Yeah.
Anybody but Joe Biden. That's all that matters. Anyway, so when you talk about likely Democratic voters in 2020, that's a whole different category than just all Americans. So yeah, if we poll all Americans, socialism doesn't poll that highly. But if you poll likely Democratic voters, socialism does okay. It's not terrible, right? So now maybe this voting block isn't huge, but I would like to make the case that it's a bigger voting block than Mitt Romney.
And furthermore, and this has been expounded upon a number of times, the individual policies are very popular. These are 80, 70% popularity amongst everyone, including 60% popularity amongst Republicans. Running on these policies is popular. Yeah. Running on maybe fracking is fine is not popular. Running on we shouldn't legalize marijuana is not popular.
Do y'all remember the Fox News town hall that Bernie Sanders did?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
And if there is a single moment in all of this election cycle that really illustrates the mistake the DNC made, if they're trying to court Republicans, they should have gone with Sanders. Because once people started hearing his policies, when he was actively interacting with Republican voters, they loved him because he was offering them something. He gave them a sense of hope. He told them they didn't have to be, ashamed for being poor. So I don't know. I mean, and especially you see it in not just the way that, people on the right respond to Sanders, but also in the way people on the left treat the South, kind of, or treat red states, And I mean, red states kind of gestalt means the South and a couple other places. But it's this very disdainful, very classist sort of attitude of well, fuck you. You're in this position because you're bad. It's well, I think people's material conditions kind of matter, actually. And I think y'all are ignoring them because you're completely out of touch dilettantes who only exist to buy your way into somebody's cabinet.
It's the kind of thinking that produces those loathsome posts what if the Northeast, the Midwest, and the West seceded and formed a true good gay America cool capitalism land, and then and then Jesus freedom Trump land in all of the dark states, they can fuck off. They can suffer under centuries of racist and everything rule because they're bad, and it's their fault that this is this way.
You know what? Here's a hot take. If that exact nation split happened, the quote unquote Jesus freedom Trump land would be way better like 50 to 100 years later, because the neoliberal hellscape, they're just going to keep holding you down, keep the police state going, because, hey, here's your Starbucks, and you got to vote. Everything's fine. What are you talking about? Go vote. Vote your problems out, says the person already in office. Like that's the like, at least if Freedom Trump America land formed, it would revolt. And, like, it wouldn't be able to sustain that fascism. But this neoliberal shit, it's like they've been doing this to us for 60 years or more of, like, just vote, just do this, just do that. And people keep falling for it. People keep doing it. And right now, there's all of these people, screaming at you from their cars in TikTok videos. You have to vote. It's a fascist. Like, y'all, this is all we've been doing. You can't just keep expecting this to produce any result.
It's really astonishing seeing them learn nothing after losing to Trump. Like, after losing to Donald fucking Trump, they learned nothing. They changed nothing. They ran probably the only candidate that was a worse choice than just running Clinton again. Like, honestly, they should have just run Clinton again. But instead,
it would have been really funny.
Yes, exactly.
I gotta say.
Like, the fact that Joe Biden did not choose Hillary Clinton as his VP is just the greatest disappointment of my adult life. Because
could you imagine, provided that there was no COVID and the Democratic convention was in person, Hillary, like, it goes to the vice presidential nomination. The doors sweep open. The camera cuts, and then it's Hillary there. And the whole crowd goes fucking wild.
God, yeah.
It would be the best wrestling promotion ever.
Cherry vote.
I gotta go with the new vote. It's gonna be around forever.
Yeah, I'm signing on with new vote. Never dying.
Whoo! I just, again, I want to make the case that, like, even if you don't take people like us that seriously, and you think that neoliberalism still has some benefits, or classical liberalism, or whatever kind of I don't care. We're still a bigger, this group of people right here is a bigger voting bloc than Mitt Romney. And y'all kissed his ass for nothing. I'm just gonna tell it like it is.
Republicans are not Republicans because they have shame, or they when you become a Republican, the part of your brain that processes shame is removed.
Yes.
It's like the quote, "You can't practice nonviolent protest against an enemy that doesn't have a conscience." You can't shame an enemy that doesn't have shame. It's just incapable of doing it, because, and there was a Matt Walsh tweet that was exactly this, that was, I said that Merrick Garland should not be nominated because I didn't want him on the court. I think that Trump's nominee should be nominated because I do want him on the court. This isn't hypocrisy, it's playing politics, and you're whining. Like, these people people want to win, and thus they are winning because you are referring to norms and bullshit that we have run by for so long that have produced nothing, and nobody believes them anymore. But you are stupid enough to continue believing in them.
Yes, the rubishness is extremely present and clear. How much do y'all know about late Weimar Germany?
Oh, I mean, there's definitely a few parallels to make if
Yes.
you want to go there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to paint a broad picture here of like late Weimar Germany. So they were struggling to recover from the First World War. Economically speaking, they had really, really rapidly increasing economic inequality, accompanying this push for liberalism, including like acceptance of people who were gay and stuff like that, right? Sort of socially enlightened, but economically in dire straits. They had a sort of ineffectual government that was not adequately addressing those. And then they had this one demagogue who was able to, when the people in power were either unable or unwilling to provide meaningful, tangible, intelligible explanations for why the people they were in charge of were suffering, they had a demagogue show up and say, like, hey, it's the Jews. And create an other, and that's what happens. Is if you have these giant, nebulous, unspeakable economic anxieties that for whatever reason, like people are not able to understand as a consequence of the system and instead feel has to be coming from somewhere among individual actions. Like, and then you just hold up a person and say, this person, this other, in their ulteriority threatens you. Whether that's physically by calling them rapists and criminals, whether that's existentially by saying that we're trying to wipe out the white race, like whatever else you might do to otherize this group, people will take that because it's an explanation, because it gives them something that they can externalize that anxiety onto. And that is a comforting thing to people like that. And if you can turn it around and say, like, it's capitalism, you feel this way because of capitalism, of course, then they turn on the capitalists, right? But none of the people in power have any incentive to do that. And so all of them, including the Democrats, are allowing people to continue to unperson Muslims, to unperson Latino people, to do these horrific things that were happening in Nazi Germany, that have been happening, because it is easier to do that than...
Uh-oh, I think we lost Rachel for a second. But I swear, listening to Rachel talk about this stuff, it's like sometimes I want to become one of those boring history podcasters, one of those leftist podcasters that you can't stand, because all I do is talk about just dates and places and time all the time.
Yeah.
Because there's like this lack of history, like we were not taught enough stuff. We were taught very little. I would say if you ask people, like the average American would say that they're against Nazism, right? Like even if they are a relatively conservative, they would say, yes, I don't want Nazis, but they think that like BLM and quote unquote SJWs are closer to Nazis than people who call themselves Nazis. It's a very confusing position to take, but when you think about it in the context of not actually learning any like quality history education, it makes sense. Because when you think about it, Leah, what do most Americans think of when they think of the rise of Nazi Germany? Do they think of like a large set of political conditions, or do they think of one charismatic guy who seemed kind of evil but was secretly really evil?
Yeah, they very obviously they think of Hitler as a guy who took control, and they don't think of everything that converged to let that happen.
Right.
And Karl Blue 1, Nazis idolized 1924 set of laws. Yeah, this is also true. Hitler's eugenics ideas were modeled after eugenics laws in places like California.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been well documented.
Well, and it's like proven over and over and over again that so long as you give the bourgeoisie a way to intellectualize the cruelties that they're enacting on people, they will not notice they're hurting people. And that's really what they're doing, is they have created this massive orchestration of ways that they can avoid feeling bad at any cost.
So I just want to be clear. You know, if you think that there is some way to sort of sit at just the right discussion table with just the right code of ethics to make Republicans take you seriously, and then you've appealed to their quote-unquote sense of honor, and, you know, you can get through to them, they've gaslit you. They're liars. They don't mean this stuff. The Republicans create a straw man of themselves and parade that around. The Republicans have this convenient state that they're in, where they're always saying, we believe in these values, but we can't exercise those values right now. That's their constant position. At a certain point, you have to ask, when do you believe in these values? Because you are never seeming to exercise them in any way except as a political tool. You are never, you never come forward as a pro-life argument to feed people, to like house the homeless. Where is that then? Where are the sentiments for taking care of the veterans, except at a time when you want to discredit immigrants? Where are the times that you have any sentiments to take care of immigrants, except when you want to discredit some other group? Like, it's ridiculous. There is no time when the Republicans are actually being moral or honorable. There is no time when they're actually going to quote unquote play by the rules and sit down and have that fair discussion. They are tricking you into believing that's what they're going to do. And they're all hypocrites. I'm sorry if you're a conservative out there, you think that you're full of honor. You're full of shit. Fight me. I don't care.
Republicans are liars. Every single one of them. They're liars. They're hypocrites. They have no consistent value system, because any consistent value system would lead them to disowning some part of their platform. The honest ones are very quickly ushered away. Like, if you remember Tom Cotton, his New York Times article that was like, we should let the army kill protesters. Only when Republicans are being their ugliest are they telling you the truth. And any situation apart from that, they're fucking lying to you, and you would be wise to not fall for it. Because there are 100 million people in this country that did not vote, that could vote but did not vote in the 2016 election. Why are you not appealing to them instead of appealing to the people who have proven time and time and time and time again that they are liars, that they will never tell you what you want, that they will never tell you what they want, they will never give you what you want, even if it contradicts previous things, because they're playing the fucking game. And if you assert something different, if you assert that they should play by their own rules, then you're whining. It's simple as, and you will never convince them of anything else.
Well, I think the thing that Republicans understand in a way that just Democrats don't really is optics. You know, Democrats, like, for all of their fixation on identity, do not understand the actual things people want to hear and see, you know? And I don't think Republicans necessarily do either, so much as Republicans have created, you know, this extraordinary artifice that they're hanging all of these ideas on and then just pumping into people, you know, whether that's the Koch network, you know, seating circuit courts, or whether that's evangelical pastors like fucking Joel Osteen, right? And I think the difference between them and the Democrats is not even really about like integrity even, because I don't think the Democrats are not like willing to lie, cheat, and steal once you get up to that level, right? It's just like understanding. Like, they physically do not understand the people whose votes they need. And I think that's kind of the advantage, right? Like, Republicans actually do, at the very least, understand how to speak to people's fear. For sure.
So let's just say this, okay? You don't want to take this from us. You don't want to believe us. You don't want to believe crazy leftists. Listen to Mitt Romney. He said it. He said it himself. about this Supreme Court situation. He didn't dance around it. He said, this is about the politics. Be real. That was basically his statement, right? This is about the politics. Be real. Like that's how it read to me. Okay. You can go read it, see if you have a different interpretation. Come back, tell me if you do. I don't care. But that's how it reads to me. And I think you'll be hard pressed to find a different interpretation that really makes a lot of sense, because when you look at what he's saying, that's what he's saying. He's saying, look, yeah, I blocked an appointment that was not beneficial for my party. And now I'm going to shove through an appointment that is. It doesn't matter what other posturing I've done at other times. I'm playing the political situation of right now. And the political situation of right now is that the conservatives are probably going to hold on to a lot of power. Like, and that's, you know, he's just leaning into that. I mean, the thing is that someone who might be more pragmatic about, like, maybe I want to position myself as a slightly independent, moderate Republican at another time, the minute that Supreme Court seat opened up, they're all just gonna go, nah, forget that. That was a joke. Because of course, like, this is about power for them. And this is a decades-long plan that they've been working on. This is not new. This Supreme Court plan has been in the works for a long, long time. Okay? So, like, that's the funniest thing, of course, right now on Twitter, is that a lot of liberals are blaming the progressive vote, which also isn't worth appealing to. Let's just remind ourselves, both these facts are somehow true. Not a vote worth appealing to, but also we affect every election so much that, like, it's our fault for everything. The progressives are now saying, the liberals are now saying, hey, it's the progressive vote, which is just a nebulous concept of people who just aren't that satisfied with people like Joe Biden, is responsible for this Supreme Court situation, instead of blaming the Republicans who are blatantly telling you, haha, we did it. We have accomplished our evil plan. And then the liberals are like, no, it's this guy over here who says we need health care.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think, like, it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of it is because people have bought in so much to this one idea. Like, the very specific type of rube liberal who never learns their lesson is that person, because they've bought in so hard to this idea of, like, justice and, like, goodness, and that something like that can be meaningfully measured, right? This very, like, almost technocratic approach to, like, ethics. And in order to acknowledge that, like, the system itself is just broken beyond repair, that the system itself is toxic, that the system itself is the reason we're getting these results, and that the only way to do it is going to be fundamentally changing the system, right? In order to buy into that, they would have to then acknowledge that all of these things that they have believed for decades, all of these actions they have taken that were informed by that set of beliefs, and all of the things that they have inevitably done to hurt the people who ultimately produced their advantages, like, all of those things, they would have to own them. And they would have to have a really serious reckoning with themselves. And frankly, I don't think most people are really good at that, you know? But I especially don't see it happening here. No one, like I said, no one learned anything from 2016. And I think it's because it's a lot of people with real fragile egos. It's like they never got over not being cool enough to, like, have friends in high school or whatever. And they're still struggling.
Yeah, it's all of the student council kids.
Yeah.
They're still waiting for their moment.
Right? Like, they're still wanting to go back to their class reunion that they now can't go to because of COVID anyway. Like, because they fumbled the fucking ball in 2016. Like,
if only we had a universal healthcare system.
Right?
Anyway,
and it's just like,
maybe could have helped a little bit. I don't know.
Tiny.
Yeah, it's an entitlement too, you know. Like not just that, like they're entitled to be in power, right? Because they earned it to be there or whatever is what they think. And I just like, nah. If you're so much of a loser that your opponent can literally be telling you to your face, I am lying to you and taking advantage of you and you're letting me do it, and you still are focusing all of this energy on convincing your opponents to support you, like I can't help these people, you know? Like there's nothing I can say that's going to make any of these people believe something reasonable or true.
Let me explain something to conservatives and liberals that y'all don't seem to understand. If we had a democracy, we don't, but if we had a democracy, no one would be entitled to power within that. Do you understand that can't happen? Do you understand that can't exist? You cannot be entitled to power within a democracy. If you believe we have a democracy, again, we don't. You cannot, these things cannot both be true. You cannot believe that someone has earned something. You cannot go, yes, Queen Ruth Bader Ginsburg, it was fine for her not to retire when it was politically convenient because she doesn't have to answer to anyone. Like,
well,
if
right.
you believe that, like,
sorry.
Go ahead.
At the same time, when they were like, hey, like, Ruth, it's 2009, you're in your 70s and you have pancreatic fucking cancer. Like, maybe you should retire. And they're like, this is sexism. You know? And it's like, this is why we lose. Because it's like these strictly symbolic aesthetic gestures towards power redistribution without actually meaningfully approaching or even reckoning with the system that actually distributes power. And it drives me bonkers.
It's like you want to know what the last significant thing Ruth Bader Ginsburg did in her life before she died. It wasn't make a significant ruling legalizing whatever or protecting whatever right. It's she broke quarantine as a septuagenarian, or whatever the word is for how old she is, to officiate a Democratic official's wedding with a ton of people in attendance. That is the last thing she did in her life, was this precisely only symbolic measure of helping the other friends that deserve to be there. And oh, look, it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It's just incredible that this happened. And that the last thing she ever did was nothing.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. This is the problem, okay? Because we're like, oh, like the liberals are like, oh, it's her right to blah, blah, whatever. Let me tell you something. If it was other way around, it was a Republican, like these were Republicans, they would just go, hey, Ruth, time for you to retire so we can make sure that your seat stays filled. And Republican Ruth would go, yep, whatever you say, because that's how they operate. And we're not playing on anything remotely on that level of politics. And we think that like we can possibly stop their machinations. Like, no, there is no possibility to stop their machinations when they are playing this kind of game, and the liberals will refuse to call them out for it.
I mean,
or even behave in remotely with the same level of seriousness.
We can't even get the left to agree that having attractive women on the left is an advantage. Like, I don't I don't know how to explain this to people, you know? Like, yeah. I wish I could explain to people that politics is not rational. It's never been rational. It will never become rational because people are not rational. You are never going to like make your Aaron Sorkin appeal to higher forces or better angels or greater, you know, ideals, generally speaking. You're just going to kind of have a bunch of people who are tired and overworked and resentful clawing at each other, and hopefully somewhere along the way, some of us climb up enough to change something. And that's it. Like, that's what politics is. That's the entirety of politics. We're telling stories right now, right here. We're doing propaganda. Like, we're funny. I get it. We're very attractive. That's definitely true. It helps. It makes it easier to look at us and listen to us. And also, we're doing propaganda right now. We are trying to sell you something. We are trying to sell you the idea that being a socialist is cool and smart and good. It happens that we actually believe this, but what we are doing right now is selling you something.
This is reminding me of that post.
Like, and they're doing it too, but they're bad at it.
This is reminding me of the Twitter post that we had on our show account earlier about the white woman talking about political science degrees and how they teach you to be unbiased about politics or whatever.
Oh,
like
no.
like there is no such thing, folks, as unbiased politics. And whenever people are trying to sell you on the idea that they are some kind of moderate that weighs everything out, they're either lying or they're extremely naive, and they're usually like 19 and really don't know anything about politics. Like there is no like, yes, I'm the truly rational centrist who's weighing all the sides. People who say that are liars, and that's what we're looking at with all of this shit. And I just want to say it's kind of funny in a way, because a lot of the conservatives, they'll tell you Trump's playing 4D chess, right? You've heard that thing before. People always assume that means that he's being more intelligent than you think. It means that he's lying more than you think. That's what it means. That's what 4D chess is, guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if nothing else, the Trump presidency has illustrated how easy it is to use people's existing biases to get them to believe whatever you want. That is what Trump's presidency is. That's what his following is. That is a bunch of people who have deliberately chosen to just believe in this one person who is charismatic, who speaks to them, who appears to see them, and it doesn't matter that he sees them and thinks of them all as cockroaches, right? It's that they feel seen by him and represented by him. And for that reason, they will believe or disbelieve whatever they need to continue feeling like they have an actual leader who represents them. And the left is not doing that.
So let's change gears. Let's talk about something fun for a little bit before we get out of here. We do have to, this will be like a slightly on the short side stream, so we'll probably only be here for about 15 more minutes, maybe, I don't know. But we have a really exciting episode of the podcast coming out today. And it's not just exciting because we collaborated with some very cool and cloudy people, but also because it was really fun. It was super fun and funny and good. I think we should just take a moment to just bask in the goodness of that. That's going to be coming out like basically as soon as we're kind of wrapping up here. We finally, this has been a huge project for us that has been like a year in the making almost. We finally did an episode with the Trillbillies, Tom and Terrence. They were so much fun. Yeah. Guys, what did you think of recording with them? Because I thought that was one of our best episodes ever.
Well, I always enjoy recording with like other podcasters, even when they're not super cloudy, because it's like, well, like they know how to do the game. They know how to do the bits and they can roll with you on things. And it's very fun to play with them.
Right.
And also, like, they made some really great points. Like, I was learning cool stuff about Kentucky politics, which is relevant to me because I'm down here in Georgia. We have very many of the same struggles,
Definitely.
It was just great. Like, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. They're great. We'll hopefully have them back many more times because it was a blast.
Yeah. They also suggested having some of us on their show sometime soon.
Which would be wonderful. I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hopefully that'll be happening as well. Leah, what'd you think? Did you have any special moments from that recording that stood out?
I gotta say the whole thing was something else only in part because, and this isn't discussed, I don't remember it being discussed on the actual episode itself, but I was kind of sort of at work during the taping of the episode. So I had to keep bouncing between like answering a call, because I work doing phone banking now, answering a call and saying a line on the pod. And that was just so hectic in the final minutes of the episode. But I think it's still good. I think it's really fun, the final product, and I'm really glad that we got to make that.
Yeah, for sure. No, the final product came out great. We did have to spend a couple extra days on it because there was a little bit of audio choppiness, but we cleaned it up for the most part. Now it sounds fine. There's like one line that Brandon gives where he sounds slightly crackly. If you can't stand that, I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't know what to tell you.
It was great. It was great doing the episode, and it's been great being on this stream. I hope you all enjoy it.
Yeah. So anyway, check out at the top of the hour. That's going to be coming out on the audio podcast. We know there haven't been a lot of audio only shows coming out lately. It's because we're kind of trying to change our recording schedule. I know we just went through like a period of being a little off too, so I'm sorry that we're like doing 2 in a row, but like we just need to move things around. A lot of things changing in people's lives, and if you want it to be that there are never these type of interruptions, you can go to patreon.com/notsafe. And, if we were making like Trillbillies money, then we wouldn't have interrupted episodes like ever. We would record a backlog of content and make sure the content was always out on time, every time, period, no matter what. So, keep that in mind before we let you out of here. Again, we thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate you coming here for this quick stream as we are just struggling through another week in 2020.
Hell world.